What's up YouTube? This is Brian from Bull Strength coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking all about the Jefferson Deadlift. The Jefferson Deadlift is a great way to perform deadlifts if conventional form is creating problems for your lower back. The center of gravity is directly over the center part of your hips instead of putting most of the load on your posterior chain, including your lower back muscles. Overall, the Jefferson Deadlift provides a more balanced workout for your trunk and hips. Another reason to program Jefferson Deadlifts is that it mimics the default foot position for fighters and wrestlers. Fighters using proper form use a staggered stance that is similar to the Jefferson Deadlift. Building strength using the same stance you'd use for fighting will build tremendous power in that stance. The Jefferson Deadlift should be a staple lift for any fighter or wrestler. The Jefferson Deadlift is an underrated powerhouse of a movement that is largely ignored by the strength training community. The lift itself is asymmetrical, meaning it strengthens the muscles in your trunk over the transverse and sagittal planes as well as the frontal plane. In other words, it's also hitting the muscles in your core that run from east to west and are also responsible for lateral flexion, although your rectus abdominis and other north to south muscle groups are being used as well. So it's a great way to combine hip hinge with rotation and is an excellent compound movement for loading heavy weight. It's excellent at building stabilization over your center of gravity, which in turn will help prevent injury. Alright, so before we get into form cues, I just want to say that no two stances are going to look exactly the same. The form for the Jefferson Deadlift is highly subjective and is heavily dependent upon your leverages. That being said, I'm going to walk you through my preferred stance so that you can get an idea of how to properly perform this lift, but feel free to tweak the form until it feels natural for you. The goal is to have the bar move up and down in a straight line. Your body should not have to adjust as the weight comes up. Alright, so first let's talk about the stance. So the setup is going to be very similar to the trap bar deadlift. Your legs are going to be about shoulder width or slightly wider. Using that stance, you're going to straddle the bar and prepare to use a mixed grip. Personally, I like to mix the grip so that the supinated hand is braced up against the leg that's in back of the bar. So in other words, I have my elbow all the way up on my leg to sort of prevent it from bending and flexing the bicep. And as many of you know, bicep tears are one of the most common tears in deadlifting, and that is from having any sort of angle in your arm as you lift the weight. So bracing your elbow against your leg will prevent any sort of flexion out of your bicep as the weight comes up. That being said, even though your elbow is braced, you do want to make sure that your triceps are fully extended just to ensure that that joint is completely straight. And just like with the conventional deadlift, you're going to tighten up your core and brace, preferably into a weightlifting belt. You want to keep your spine as linear as possible. You're going to do this by keeping your chest upright and by lowering your hips. Now, when you lower your hips into a Jefferson deadlift, it's going to be quite a bit lower than you would lower them for a conventional deadlift. So you're going to load up your hips into a half squat or slightly lower position. Then you're just going to stand up with the bar, emphasizing leg drive. So as you drive your legs, you want to think about pushing the earth away with your feet instead of lifting the weight with your arms and back, just like with the conventional and sumo deadlifts. Alright, so let's talk about a couple of showstoppers in terms of when to abort doing a Jefferson deadlift. So first of all, if you're experiencing valgus collapse, in other words, if your knees are caving in, the Jefferson deadlift is not going to be a good lift for you because it's going to be very hard for the bar to clear your knees and actually lock out up at your hips. You're essentially going to create a roadblock with your knees. So if valgus collapse is an issue for you, be sure to check out this video that I've linked. But generally the idea is you want to strengthen the muscles associated with hip abduction. And another showstopper is allowing your hips to lock out of sync with your knees. So if your hips lock out before your knees, then it's going to result in a very grindy lift that's going to put a lot of stress on your lower back. So be sure that your knees and hips are locking out at about the same time. All right, let's talk very briefly about programming. So this is, like I said before, this is a great primary or accessory lift for a fighter-focused training regimen. It can also be used in place of the deadlift in pretty much any strength program. And powerlifters and strongmen could benefit from using the Jefferson deadlift in a sort of a pivot period. So in other words, if you're trying to get away from doing your traditional low bar squats and conventional deadlift and you just want to mix it up with something different, this would be a good thing to sort of pivot to give those muscles a break and to try something different. And like I said before, it's also going to go a long way in preventing injury. Alright, that's pretty much it for the video. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel and attend weekly group classes, you can do so through Patreon and Subscribestar. Links are down in the description, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.